I want to thank you all for being here today. Let me get set up a little bit. I want to thank Biagio, Sylvia, Cecilia for setting up such a good conference for us all. 14 speakers from 14 countries that are here to share their knowledge, their research with us all. I want to thank the tourist faculty and students for all they have done to make this a wonderful and smooth running conference, and I guess I could go on, but and I better thank my wife Mariana here. My friends and many people tell me that I am a high maintenance man, and my wife has been able to take care of that, so this is a good thing. Today I want to talk about water. I know that the climate change, that energy, water, all of these things are very important. And as I was getting ready for this presentation, I went on the internet to Wikipedia and found out a little bit about rainfall. Looking at this map of the world, I wanted to point out the area that I'm from is right in this area, and of course here we are in São Paulo. So we have about the same annual rainfall. We have the edge of mountains, the Appalachian Mountains, the oldest mountains in the world. And so we do have 50, 60 inches of rainfall a year. And what did I learn? I was very surprised to learn that 12 to 14% of the world's water is in Brazil, mainly in the Amazon. And as we look at that, in the state of São Paulo, with 25% of the population, only 1.6% of the water. So we have water in the north and not so much in the south where the population is. What are some of the challenges? And as I read these, I saw the same challenges that we face in America, the same challenges that I've seen in Seoul, Korea, Manila, Tbilisi, in the state of Georgia, Tashkent, Uzbekistan, a few of the places that I've gone to look at pollution prevention and cleaner production. Scarcity. Add to that a drought, and all of a sudden it is of paramount importance. The urban sprawl and poverty, where you had beautiful reservoirs that were protected. This is where the people from the country that are coming into the cities to find work are settling, and they don't have good drinking water there. They don't have the sanitation, the water treatment systems there. And so if you add that pollution to the scarcity of the water, it is even a worse situation. The conflicts over who uses the water. Is it people? Is it agriculture? Is it industry? And as I look at America, as the drought has happened, when a river flows through the state of North Carolina to South Carolina to Georgia, those states are in court fighting over whose water is that. How much of that water can we use in North Carolina before it goes to South Carolina? And obviously, what water that we treat, we put back into the river. What is the quality of that water before it goes to South Carolina and on to Georgia? So these are key things. Usually people get the water first, then agriculture, and then industry. And since my center works with industry, we have to do something now in non-drought years to mitigate and be able to respond to a drought situation. The command and control regulations that we have. There are many industries. And Brazil, as America, the resources for going out and inspecting those industries have to be spread around. And normally we inspect the largest and the worst polluters. Yet there are many businesses, smaller businesses, that are generating hazardous waste, air emissions, solid waste, that need to be helped. In America, 50% of our jobs are in companies of 100 employees or less. And so small businesses need to do the right thing with their hazardous waste, with their water discharges, and their energy use also. And finally, 40% of the water supply is lost through the infrastructure before it even gets there or is not being built. The infrastructure of America was built in 1920, 1930. And as we look at those sewer systems, as we look at the water supply systems, there's leaking. We're cleaning a lot of water and only 60% gets there. Much as in energy, we generate it and only a third of it gets to the industry to be used. Inefficiency in our systems is paramount. What should we do? Well, again, from Wikipedia, these are the things that I found that the state of São Paulo is looking at. Focus on the activities that increase the availability of water, promote the rational use of water, water conservation, construct sanitation systems, money, in tight financial times, very expensive. Incentivize the reuse of treated wastewater. What I can tell you is in the developing countries that I have visited, when a company builds a new facility and they bring the water in and treat it to be clean enough for their process, they're not going to just put it back in the river and pull some more to clean. They're going to close the loop and use that water because they haven't hardly polluted it. When I was in Manila to bring in water from the Pasig River and clean it, it was unbelievable. Why would you possibly put the clean water you had just barely used back in the river and take some more dirty to clean? So you begin to see an efficiency of reuse in that. And then reduce the non-revenue water use. There is a price for water, we must pay it. So we have it. The drought, again, in America has been a year here, a year there, but in Kentucky the last 3 years. In fact, in the southeast United States, 3 years of drought has really gotten our attention because water is so precious. What are the communication optimize? We're saying optimize your water sources. Vulnerability assessments of water-intensive industries. When I look at food processing, water. Metal finishing, water, rinsing and preparing the surface to get ready to plate it or paint. Water usage, cleaning, rinsing. Those water-intensive businesses we need to assess and find out, one, many of them do not know how much they're using, and they think the price of water is cheap, and I'll talk about that more. And then institute a process water management program. That's what we did at the Kentucky Pollution Prevention Center. And instead of saying that, I'm going to begin to use our acronym KPPC, so I don't have to say that over and over again. Again, deploying water conservation technologies and practices through trials and demonstrations. I'm not talking about research. I'm talking about proven technologies that need to penetrate the market. They're there. And industry seems to be afraid to use them. Oh, that won't work here. I'm unique. No, you're not unique. You can use these same technologies, and I'll talk about that more. Our mission at KPPC is to be a primary resource for business industries and other organizations in developing environmentally sustainable cost-saving solutions for improved efficiency. Now, I'm going to tell you something. There's sustainability, there's pollution prevention, there's cleaner production, there's waste reduction, there's waste minimization, and I will boil every one of those down to one word, and it's efficiency. We need efficiency in everything we do, and that's the key thing here. We're based at the University of Louisville in the Speed School of Engineering, and we are a center that provides a statewide service for industries and businesses. I have 17 engineers on staff. I use engineering students during their internships, full semesters, to put them in industry and do assessments of what are you currently doing and what are the opportunities for reduction. We're nonprofit. We're just wonderful people. In fact, I know that Jeffrey Burke was here last year, the executive director of the National Pollution Prevention Roundtable. Last year in September, KPPC won the Most Valuable Pollution Prevention Program Award for America. We're doing something right, and it's helping industry save money, reduce pollution, and improve their behaviors. This is a great saying that I've actually broken into 4 separate things by Amory Lovins, Paul Hawken, and Hunter Lovins. And I think this says it all. You know, maybe I should say I love graffiti. This is probably one of the most powerful statements in the fewest words I've seen. Business strategies built around the radically more productive use of natural resources can solve many environmental problems at a profit. And I can tell you that when the folks from my center go to work with a company, we're not there and they don't have us there because it's the right thing to do. We're not there to hug a tree for them. We're there to help them reduce cost. And when I think of sustainability, and we think of it as using resources and keeping that level of resources for 2 generations down, our grandchildren's. I say to a company, will you be here in 2 generations? Will you exist as this company in 2 generations? That's an important question. They may not be making the same product, but will they have sustained themselves through better conservation and those kind of things and be there in 20, 30 years? This is important to them. This is important to stockholders, to the board of directors. And so sustainability reaches out in terms of, will I exist as a business? The global squeeze is on. It is a global economy. I think in America that we haven't really realized always, when I'm working with a small company in Kentucky, they don't really understand they're connected to the global economy. And they are. I think what brought it home to us was as gasoline prices jumped to $4.15 a gallon. And every time you pulled into a filling station and you pulled your wallet out to pay for the gas, people began to realize this is a global economy. I heard that the price of a barrel of oil went up today, and I saw it 17 cents a gallon at the pump. Now we begin to know this is a global economy as we look at it. Legal requirements, the pressure of markets, new technologies. But as we look over on this left-hand side, what did I do? Well, if you'll put it back on, I'll hurry to where I was. Yeah, there it is. Good. I'll quit using this thing. As we look at this left-hand side, the social side of things, what people want now is more transparency and accountability for what we're doing inside our fence. They're wanting to know what our responsibilities and roles are to the community as we produce our products. The corporate values, the leaders' values, the societal values. And these are key things. I've put some acronyms together. We have to use them, obviously, and everybody's got them. But as I look at this and we talk about a sustainable society, again, as I mentioned global economy, I'm also saying that we have a universal backyard. And it started with NIMBY, not in my backyard. And that's when we had this little backyard that we were protecting. We didn't want a landfill there. We didn't want a factory there. We didn't want anything there but our backyard. And then along came note, not over there either. Not over there either. And there got to be so many notes, they formed banana. Build absolutely nothing anywhere near anybody. Filled with cave. Citizens against virtually everything. And the far right-wing group of cave, nope, not on planet Earth. Now we've got a universal backyard. And as companies begin to set their goals, their objectives, it's important that they remember that universal backyard. You can look at this curve. I know that the first Brazilian environmental regulations happened in the 1970s, much as they did in America with the Clean Water Act, Clean Air Act, and those things. And as we look at what we're doing, we were unprepared. We got reactive. We got into compliance with the regulations, or we would have been put out of business. And we moved up the curve of pollution prevention, on up to cleaner productions, on up to sustainability. And this has been a slow, painful process, again, for many industries. And sustainability, what we call the triple bottom line, the societal values, individual values, and what's important to us. The economic goals, you have to be there economically to create jobs, to pay your taxes, to run the government, to improve services, those kind of things. And finally, the environment. And key things as we look at the environmental management of this is that we do see pollution prevention, cleaner production, compliance with all regulations, continual improvement of our environmental performance, our carbon footprints, our water usage, and finally, conservation of our natural and cultural resources. Not only do I hate to see that our natural resources are being burned, but look at our cultural resources, what we let go for progress. We've got to conserve those things also. We've got to integrate all of our management systems, safety, health, quality, environmental systems together and move forward on one front. Implementing change, that's what this is about. Change management. And it's so hard. I see companies dig their heels in and say, this too shall pass. I can wait long enough. This will pass. But as we begin to work with them, you need increased drivers, motivation, and regulations are getting more stringent. The stick is getting bigger. Costs are going higher. Technologies are being developed, new technologies, existing technologies. And if we can lead a company over that hurdle And down the other side, there will be a benefit for the environment, and usually at a profit. The obstacles, fear of change. They're just afraid to change. You know, companies say to me, and I'll use a colloquialism from Kentucky, Cam, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And I have to say to them, if you don't fix it, you may go broke, because it costs more and more to manage waste. Why don't we just prevent it in the first place? The commercial availability, the technical requirements, does it fit in technically with what we're doing? We have limited resources. Again, the financial squeeze is on. Where do I get that money? You may have to bite the bullet initially, and the savings will pay for that. You have to look at the payback cost. But many industries say, Cam, if it doesn't pay back in less than 2 years, I can't do it. And things like powder coating and things take 4 years to pay back, and yet there is no volatile organic compounds. There's less regulatory requirements. It pays, just not before the 4 years is up. How do we capitalize now and use the savings to pay ourselves back? The communication within the plant. The right hand doesn't know what the left hand is doing. People on the line working don't even know what that process up there is, what they're doing here that will impact what happens down there. How clean do I need to rinse this so that the adhesive, the paints, the plating that happen down here work? We can't cut down on those things, but we can improve their efficiency. The environment is not my job. I can tell you that as I walk around companies and I talk to people and I say, what's happening here environmentally? And they say, oh, the environmental health and safety people are up in that office. Well, thank you very much. They're not running the water. They're not adding the chemicals. I want to talk to the people that are doing that because they control the process. And that's what we've got to do, control the process. And then how do we go beyond compliance? Oh, management doesn't want to hear that. Management says you get me up to the minimum level of compliance and that's it. And if you say you want to spend a little money to go beyond compliance, they lock on the wallet and they're not much interested. So how do we get that new move beyond compliance? There's two sides. Now y'all keep me on time, all right? When you're tired and you're ready to leave, just hold your hand up and go on. It'll be all right. There's two sides of organizational change. The management side, the leadership side. And it's interesting that many times management says, oh, that's my side. No, it's really not. The management side of things are the processes, the procedures, the best management practices, standard operating procedures that should be implemented every day by every person on the line to just run efficiently. That's the management side of the process and making quality products. The leadership side is when you begin to ask people to be creative, when you let them take ownership and become a stakeholder in what's going on. That will overcome the resistance to change, and you will begin to see people do more. One of the most impressive things, we had worked with a company, and we had solved big problems, hazardous waste, reduced it, energy efficiency, reduced it, done all of these great things. The employees had really bought in. We thought, wow, aren't we great how much we've done? And the company was so proud. And yet, one employee got a 5-gallon bucket a plastic bucket and put it next to his station and put used batteries on there. Little bitty batteries. And said, I'm going to collect batteries. Y'all were doing all these big things, but there's still batteries floating around everywhere. And I'll tell you what, other people begin to get their bucket for batteries. And one day I was there, and someone threw a Snickers candy bar wrapper in one of those buckets, and the people said, hey, you, get that paper out of there. That's for battery recycling. Now you know you've had a change in attitude, and people are buying in to what you're doing. Environmental management systems, a systematic approach to review and improve operations and environmental performance, improve profitability, and effectively be safe. That's an EMS, an environmental management system. As we look at this, y'all have heard of ISO 14001, I'm sure, an international standard. Well, I've kind of broken that whole standard down to 4 lines, if you will. It kind of starts with this. Say what you do what you say. If it moves, train it. If it don't move, calibrate it. But no matter what you do, document it. And this is key. These 4 things where you're saying, I'm going to put my procedures down. I'm going to train everybody to do it right. I'm going to calibrate all of my equipment to give me quality products, use the least amount of energy and raw materials that I can. And I'm finally going to, I've jumped. And I'm going to do the last thing also. I forgot what it was. Pollution prevention. Reducing all hazardous pollutants, contaminants, and substances entering any waste stream, air, land, water, prior to recycling, treatment, or disposal. That's the definition that leads us to cleaner production. But it goes on to say more, and this is key, that pollution prevention, cleaner production, are other practices that reduce pollutants through the efficient use of raw materials, energy, water, and other resources, and the conservation of natural resources. This is resource management, and that's what we're about in pollution prevention. Waste, water, air, solids, both regular solid waste, hazardous waste. Time, productivity. The more time you spend managing waste, moving waste, storing waste, labeling waste, filling out your manifest to ship waste, the less time you have to do your mission to make your product. And then finally, the E, energy efficiency. Very important, key in all of this. We want to move up the waste management hierarchy with continual improvement. Most people are disposing. And then you move up, some are treating. Then you get up to the recycling. Can we push ourselves? And I'm telling you, I like recycling, but it's way down on the priorities. Can we, in fact, get rid of what we're recycling somehow and reuse it first, and then move on up to source reduction, eliminate it, reduce it as much as possible, energy conservation. This is kind of a picture here, if you will, of a product being made, suppliers, contractors, to the process, make the part that goes out to the customer. And as you notice at the top there, the prevent waste, we have talked many times about involvement. And in America we say employee involvement, customer involvement, stakeholder involvement. And I got to tell you today, involvement just isn't good enough anymore. It takes commitment. It's kind of like the chicken and pig that sat down to breakfast together. The chicken provided the eggs. The pig provided the bacon. The moral of the story, the chicken was involved in breakfast. The pig was committed to breakfast. There's a big difference there. The pig knows that now. On the right-hand side, add value, fulfillment. This is a customer diagnosis. Fulfillment, expectations, and we hope to exceed expectations. Fulfillment. The customer says, I want a blue widget, a blue piece. They didn't expect it to come in a box with styrofoam beads stacked on a pallet, shrink wrapped with plastic straps on it. Because when they pull their one widget out, they now have a dumpster full of waste. That's the dissatisfier. I didn't know I was going to have to spend $260 to send that to a landfill when all I wanted was a blue widget. And you begin to see companies like Walmart where they're not getting shirts on hangers in plastic bags and wrapped with tissue paper in boxes anymore. They come on the hanger and they're ready to hang out front. No waste. That's sustainability when we begin to look at how we're doing those things. All right, I want to talk about Technology Diffusion Initiative. This is an initiative that we started at the University of Louisville. We brought in the University of Illinois. We brought in the University of Minnesota, University of Kentucky, and also the National Pollution Prevention Roundtable. And as we looked at these things, we said that diffusion equals demonstration and deployment. And I will tell you today, and I have many great researchers here that have been speakers in this conference, as much money as you spend on research and development, you must spend on demonstration and deployment. It can't stop at research. It's got to move on through the system, and we've got to spend money on demonstrations to prove these things work in our industries at the throughput rate that they're doing. It can't go slower because it's water-based and takes longer to dry. If it's an ink, a paint, or whatever, a cleaning compound, they're still got to get 2,100 pages printed a minute. So how do you begin to work those things out? This is key. We started this program with sectors: metal finishing, painting and coating, fiberglass. What we really began to realize is that the common denominator in a lot of these industries was water. And so let's not pick a sector, let's pick a media and begin to work on that media. And again, using environmental performance to increase competitive advantage, to achieve sustainability by process water management. So that was our goal. As I looked on Wikipedia, I found this: São Paulo's top 10 industries: automotive, food processing. I see some water users here. I also see consulting, domestic sewage. I see there. Great things. But we're all using water. Common water uses. I don't care if you're in São Paulo, Kentucky, Oregon, or Canada. These same things are being used in industry. Exact same things, water users, as we look at them. Cooling towers. Once through cooling water. I've got to tell you, we work with so many companies that are trying to cool their plating baths by running cool water in tubes around it. And then they say to us, Cam, why do I have so much water going through my system? Well, how about getting a chiller for about $50,000, chill your water, and not run a whole bunch of water through there? Payback less than 1 year. Now that makes sense. We can't use a wonderful, scarce resource to try and cool tanks by just running cool water past it. Here's a look at kind of the 3 outside, incoming, outgoing sewer water, sanitary use. We go into the plant, we see the pre-rinse, the alkaline cleaning, the post-rinse phases, multi-stage parts, washers, reverse osmosis, deionization units. You begin to see the cooling towers, the boilers, air compressors, mop water. We have industries that use 2,000-3,000 gallons a day of water to mop with and then just pour it out. How about filtering it, keeping your cleaning chemicals that are already in there, freshening it up a little bit and reuse it? Those type of things. Cutting thousands of gallons of water use just from mopping the floors to be clean. We want to be clean. We want to be safe where we don't slip on the floor and those kind of things. Here is the key. There's the price of water and there's the cost of water. This is not understood because we get the water bill, and in Kentucky it may cost us 4 or 5 cents a gallon for water. And companies say, cheap. That's cheap. And then we begin to look at their process and say, how did you pump it? What kind of chemicals did you put in it? How did you treat it? What chemicals did you pay for to treat your water to get it clean enough to discharge to not exceed your regulations? And all of a sudden we begin to find that that water costs 50 cents a gallon. In one case, we went to a company and said, how much you pay for water? And they said $200,000. Now that sounds expensive itself. And to just be running it wide open. But as we looked at that system and finally showed them the true cost of water as it went out from wastewater treatment to be discharged, it was costing them $7 million a year. They got interested in water very quickly. And that's what it takes. You have to understand the cost. Organizational capabilities. Of all the slides that I show you today and at tomorrow's workshop, this may be the most important slide right here. Because what you see at the bottom are industries are kind of in a reactive mode and they're trying to move to a proactive stance. They're wanting to work better with the community. They're tired of going to meetings where the community is pounding on them because they're depleting the groundwater of that whole community, that whole region, in an unnecessary way. And what we find is that most activities are compliance driven. I do this because I've got to discharge air and this much only. What happens is you pretty much can clean your water up and use as much as you want. You pretty much can put as much solid waste in the landfill as you want. There's no regulation there. And so we begin to say to people, how your performance metrics, what activities do you do? What kind of behavioral change do you get? And finally, what kind of outcomes do you get? Cost savings, reduced hazardous waste, reduced air emissions. Those are the outcomes that we're looking for. How do we get there? Well, what I will tell you is right here is the gap. It's behavioral change. And that when we go into a company to work with them on water, we say, have you got a water conservation policy? Have you got a policy? Top management down commitment to water conservation? Have you assigned a team of people, a cross-functional team from every department to work on water? And have you assigned a lead person to that team to report back to management? That's what it takes, a commitment to continual improvement. If you do that, you begin to have a management system that fits with business planning to make a profit, and you will become proactive. What changes here are the drivers. It may be that the driver is compliance, a stricter regulation, and we've got to reduce our air emissions, our water usage type thing. But what I can tell you about motivation of drivers is they can change weekly in a company. That one day they want to reduce energy usage, water usage. 1 week later, they're fighting for their lives to create a new product and better quality, and they don't care about energy or water. I just want to get the product, a good quality product, out of the door. So those drivers change, and that timeline goes with it. We've got to keep their attention, if you will, to make this happen. Anybody thirsty yet? I'm sweating like a pig up here now. I'm glad they turned these lights down a little bit. I think companies like to get into water management because it's visible. When you talk to them about air emissions or volatile organic compound, you can't get your hands around that. Water usage, you see it flowing. You can even stick your hand in there if it hadn't got a too acid or alkaline of a chemical in it. And so we find it's a good place to start. It's less complex. And early successes in water savings, water reductions, begin to give you money, begin to give that team money to go back to management and say, they turned on the air conditioner. Lord have mercy. I'm being energy inefficient here. Okay. You begin to have savings that you say to management, let's spend that on the next project. Instead of wondering where will we get the money to capitalize the next project in air, in recycling, in solid waste. Let's take the savings that we generate and begin to use those. And then again, as I showed, process water management in the process begins to connect to all of those chillers, cooling towers, and you begin to get a whole bigger picture of the facility, the sanitation discharges, and those kinds of things. Cultural, again, as I mentioned, we found that many organizations are not even ready to explore. No policy, no team, no commitment. The price and cost, again, I think that the process water management allows you to address sustainability, to demonstrate, and to deploy technologies. And finally, what we did is we said we need a process. And we've got a 7-step process that we lead people through, and that's what I'd like to kind of share with you as we're winding down here. 7 steps, and again, the left-hand side being management, where you look at the commitment of management, where you look at setting goals, implementing action plans, evaluating your progress, and recognizing achievements. On the right-hand side are your technical side of things, and this is where you carry the water. This is where you monitor and track and set your baselines and begin to identify your water reduction opportunities. As we look at this, I've already mentioned policy, team leader as step 1. I will tell you that we are a free, confidential, non-regulatory service. And since we're free, people just say, yeah, come give me that. It's free. And we say, have you got a policy? Have you got a team we're going to work with? Have you got a team lead? And if you don't, you'll be at the back of the line for our free service, because we're going to use our resources effectively to help you improve. So that's key. Assess performance. Assess your opportunities. Again, tracking and monitoring your usage and cost are very important. And I've got to tell you, many industries have somebody paying the water bill over here that aren't at all connected with people using the water. And the people using the water don't know what it costs. That's a big disconnect. And until you begin to get those folks talking to each other and that team understanding water cost, where's the most usage and those kind of things, there will not be change in their company. Develop that baseline. Where did we start from? What are we using now? And finally, assess your water reduction opportunities. Is it counter current flow rinsing? Is it conductivity controllers? Is it just turning down the rate of rinse water? We go into plating operations and they may have water running at 40 gallons a minute. It takes 2 gallons a minute to effectively clean and rinse a part. Just getting them to turn the water down. That's a no-cost, no-brainer that ought to be implemented. Set goals, performance goals that are based on your measurements that you're making. To set clear and measurable, to set attainable goals. I got to tell you, I like zero. Zero waste by 2010. Now, I got to tell you, we ain't going to get there, but it's a motivational goal. And if we say 15%, we might get 5. If we say 60%, we might get 30. If we say 0, we may get 90%. So we may need to begin to use that hard motivational, non-attainable, maybe, 0, but that will motivate us to go further than we might have gone with a lesser goal. Create an action plan. What are our tasks? What are our sub-tasks that we need to accomplish? What of these opportunities that we found do we need to learn more about? What the cost of them are, what the efficiency of them are. And so we begin to get an idea of what the paybacks are and that sort of thing. So we create an action plan that keeps the team on track and moving forward. Regularly update that plan because we will be achieving as we go. Then the key is to implement the plan. This is where you begin to assign people responsibilities for part of those tasks and subtasks. This is where you begin to say, we're going to do this by this time, and set the milestones that you want to achieve. And it is the time that you say, we may need training for our operators to use these new technologies. And believe me, in lean times, the first thing to go in an industry is training. Safety training, hazardous waste handling training, very important training, much less training about, I'm going to use a new equipment. Training's the first to go, and it's a shame. Evaluate your progress. This is where you benchmark against your baseline. This is where you begin to set new objectives and targets. This is where you begin to write down the lessons learned so you can do them better in your plant. You can pass them to sister plants. You can share them with an association of plants, and you can share them through cleaner production and pollution prevention centers worldwide. So we can save the Mother Earth, the spaceship we all live on. And this is key. Sharing all of that. Recognize achievements. Again, I think this goes without saying as we look at this. Facilities, teams, individuals, cost savings, pollution savings especially, that point to sustainability. Your bragging rights to the community, to the regulators, that look how good I'm doing with my environmental performance. I'm reducing my carbon footprints and all of those kind of recognitions. What are the benefits? Again, I feel that process water management defines your goals, organizes your projects, implements the steps, again, through your action plan. You're regularly assessing, so you're understanding your water use, your cost, and you're involving all levels of the organization. Again, this is key. It's not just the environmental health and safety people. And there are financial returns. The key here is you've got to stay focused on the task. All right, so everybody found it? Nobody's laughing. This ain't funny? Who's that right there? Oh yeah, I've lost my focus. And by the way, Cecilia told me that looks like her dog right there. This? Good. Here's something that we learned in tech diffusion. There's the push and pull of working with your customers. And I have to tell you that our cleaner production centers, that our pollution prevention centers, in many instances push and push what we have on our clients. We know something about this, we're going to push it. And I've got to say, I guess, how do I say it? They're being pushed upon industries with an unnecessary cost associated with it. Okay? And this is a bad mistake. What we did is we began to set up what we call focus groups of industry, stakeholder groups, as a powerful tool to ask them what are their needs, what are their viewpoints, what are their demands, what is management, what does the corporation want from them now? Not what we've got to sell them in training, in research, etc. Let's find out what they want and need, and then when we bring it to them, and we've got it, they will want it. We've got to change there. And so what we do, we set up a stakeholder group. We bring in what we call opinion leaders. What industries are doing some good things out there? There are industries doing good things. Bring in those opinion leaders and ask them three things. One, what are you using now that's doing good? Two, what have you heard about or seen at a conference in an exhibit booth that you might want to try? Now you're beginning to get a little juice from them. And where out there have you hit the wall and you need research and development? We need them to tell us where our research and development dollars should be spent. What is important to us to bring back to them. This is key. We move on through that. We conduct pilot scale. These people will say, yeah, bring that on. I'll try it in my plant. I make a deal with them. I do a memorandum of agreement, And I will buy conductivity control meters for plating companies, $4,800. I'll put them in and guarantee there will be a better than 1 year payback, or I'll come get it and it won't cost them a thing. 3.8 months later, they're paying me my money for that conductivity control. And by the way, they put it on the other 5 or 9 plating lines that they got. And then they're saving $75,000 a year. Water reduction, 1 million gallons a year. And they're beginning to say, what else you got that I might use? That's what you want to get them to. What else you got that I might want to use? Here was one. This is Akibono, USA, Elizabethtown, Kentucky. One plating line. They were using 7,600 gallons a day. We put on a $2,800 conductivity controller and took them down over 3 months. They were afraid to turn it way down initially, but we kept turning it down. Quality's okay, turn it down. Quality's okay, turn it down, till they were using 2,700 gallons a day. And they've got 9 other plating lines they went and did this to. Demonstration is a powerful tool that we've got to put in our arsenal as cleaner production and pollution prevention centers. 2-stage countercurrent. This is plumbing. This is call a plumber, not an engineer, and run your pipes back and counterflow. Put your conductivity meter way in the last one, and don't even turn it on till the salts build up in that one, and you talk about savings. They're there. What did all this result in? Oh my God, I can't read that. It's a crazy slide. Let me tell you. Up in that left-hand column, in 3 years in this program, we've saved industries over 2 billion gallons a year. And that's this year, that's next year, that's the next year, and we'll continue to add more industries. Beyond that, the water savings for that was 1.4 million. But as you look at the other things, chemical use, we saved $411,000 in chemicals we weren't having to put in because we weren't just flushing them through the system. Energy, electricity, pumping, all that stuff went down $1.1 million. So not only did we save the water, we saved dollars. And that, again, as you know, is key for these people. Let's do something. Tomorrow in the workshop, barely got some time here. Now this is the audience participation part of this presentation. Are you ready? Okay. Yeah, I think so. All right, come on, stay with me here. We're going to paint. This is a painting process. And what I want to do is I want you to tell me what are the 5 main processes or activities in painting a part. And I'm going to take the easy one and say apply paint. Okay? That's the easy one. That's step 4. What do you have to do before you paint? All right, somebody say that in English. Treatment. So surface preparation. What else? Select the paint and buy it. What else we got to do to the paint before we paint with it? Select the methods. You got to put it in the pot to paint, the spray thing, the paint preparation basically. What do you do after you paint? Dry it. What else? Clean up. What else? Maintain the equipment. So as we look at it, that's what we do. Now, I will tell you that this is called hierarchical process mapping. And again, in the workshop in the morning, I'm going to go through this in detail. Because what you begin to say is, under surface preparation, there's a lot of water use. That's the alkaline cleaning. And you begin to take these steps and say, okay, well, for surface preparation, what do? There's three things: pre-cleaning, rinsing as we go, post-rinsing. Then you begin to say, how much water are we using in this one? How much water in that one? How long does it take? And those kind of things. Till you understand every step of the process. And then you take it apart, how much chemicals went in, how much energy went in, how much water went in, what's coming out the bottom, and begin to deal with those things. We're going to go through that more tomorrow. This is a book that I and another fellow wrote back in 2002, an organizational guide to pollution prevention or cleaner production. EPA published this book. I've got it on CDs. I've got some hard copies. If you would like a copy, please let Biagio, Cecilia, Sylvia know, and I will get copies down here for you. Free, confidential, non-regulatory. Oh, yeah. Mariana, go back home with me, baby. Questions, comments from you? Now, don't stop on me. We got 5 minutes. Well, all right. There's a lot of challenges that we face. We don't know all the answers. It kind of reminds me of the story of the lion walking through the jungle looking for a challenge. And as he walked along, he saw a monkey in the tree, and he grabbed the monkey and pulled him down and said, "Who's king of the jungle?" And the monkey said, "You are, Mr. Lion. Everybody knows you're king of the jungle." Well, the lion feels pretty good, but a monkey wasn't much of a challenge. And as he walked along, he looked out across the plains and saw a big herd of zebra. And he chased down the very biggest zebra and drug him to the ground and roared, "Who's king of the jungle?" And the zebra said, "You are, Mr. Lion. Everybody knows you're king of the jungle." Well, now the lion is really feeling pumped up. And he's walking along and he sees a big herd of elephants. And a big bull elephant's laying in a dust bowl, taking a dust bath. And the lion raced over and jumped on the elephant's back and dug his claws in and roared, "Who's king of the jungle?" And the elephant just kept taking a dust bath. Oh, that upset the lion. He jumped upon the elephant's neck, dug his claws in and roared, "Who's king of the jungle?" and bit him in the neck. And that elephant reached up and grabbed that lion, threw him on the ground and up against a tree. And the lion got up, dusting himself off, and said, "Well, you don't have to get so upset just because you don't know the answer to the question." That's where we are today. Muito obrigado for putting up with me. Thank you so much, São Paulo, UNIP, and all of my new friends here. Thank you. Muito obrigado.